Before you drop your opinion in the comments, you need to hear this full story. Makazole Mapimpi. The name alone splits rugby supporters down the middle. Some call him a national treasure. Others question whether he belongs in the green and gold anymore. World Cup winner, record breaker, try-scoring machine. But there's another side to this story that most people either don't know or refuse to acknowledge. Today we're pulling back the curtain on one of South Africa's most controversial players. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll see Mapimpi in a completely different light. This isn't about taking sides, this is about the truth. So let's start where most stories don't, in a place that shaped everything you're about to witness. Sri-Lanka, a rural village near East London, where electricity is a luxury and opportunity is a distant dream. This is where Makazole Mapimpi was born. In conditions most of us can't even imagine. Poverty wasn't just a challenge, it was the only reality he knew. But here's what makes his story different from every other underdog tale you've heard. Mapimpi didn't just lose his childhood to hardship, he lost everything. Both parents gone, every single sibling gone. When the Springbok media team asked players to submit family photos for the 2019 World Cup jersey project, every player handed in pictures of parents, brothers, sisters, children. Mapimpi handed in a photo of himself. Just himself, because there was nobody left. Think about that for a second, the loneliness, the weight of being the last one standing. Most people would crumble under that kind of loss. Most would give up on any dream that required fighting through a system designed to keep people like him out. But Mapimpi didn't crumble. He became something else entirely. Something harder. Something that wouldn't bend or break no matter what stood in his way. And maybe, just maybe, that transformation came with a cost nobody saw coming. Rugby wasn't handed to Mapimpi on a silver platter like it is for kids in Pretoria or Cape Town private schools. He had to claw his way through the lower divisions. Playing for teams nobody remembers. Getting knocked down by players who had every advantage he didn't. And here's the thing that makes his journey even more remarkable. He only made his Springbok debut at 27 years old. 27. Most players are already established stars by that age. Some are already thinking about retirement. But Mapimpi was just getting started. And what he did next rewrote South African rugby history. Brian Habana, one of the greatest wingers to ever play the game, said Mapimpi's story impacts how people see themselves and their country. That's not just praise, that's recognition that this man represents something bigger than rugby. He's proof that the system can't keep you down if you refuse to stay down. By the time he pulled on that Springbok jersey, he wasn't just playing for himself, he was carrying the weight of every kid in every forgotten village who dared to dream. And the pressure of that, well, we'll get to November 2019. Rugby World Cup final, England versus South Africa. The Springboks were leading but needed something special to seal the victory. Then it happened. Mapimpi received the ball, burned past the English defense, and touched down in the corner. History made. He became the first Springbok ever to score a try in a World Cup final. Think about that. 1995, the famous Mandela final, no Springbok try. 2007, another victory, still no try in the final. It took until 2019 for a South African to finally break through. And it was the kid from Sri Lanka who did it. The kid with no family to call after the match. The kid who shouldn't have even been there according to the odds. 4 years later he did it again. 2023, another World Cup victory. Another championship medal. Back-to-back World Cup winner. That's elite company. That's legacy territory. In just 24 test matches he scored 19 tries, matching the exact record of Springbok legend Danny Gerb. 19 tries in 24 games, starting his international career at an age when most players are already winding down. The numbers don't lie. This man is one of the most lethal finishers South Africa has ever produced. So why does his name create arguments everywhere it's mentioned? What happened between the glory and the controversy? That's where this story takes a turn. Let's address what everyone's been talking about but nobody wants to say out loud. The discipline issue. Mapimpi has been involved in incidents that raised serious questions about his temperament on the field. In 2022, he received a ban for an altercation with Bordeaux Begler player Maxime Lucu. The initial suspension was 4 weeks, later reduced to 2. The rugby world took notice but largely moved on, putting it down to a moment of poor judgment. Then January 2025 happened. Another incident, this time involving Cardiff Rugby's Afan Daniel. The footage went viral, social media erupted. Some called for lengthy bans and accused him of being a repeat offender. Others argued that the other player made contact first, and Mapimpi was defending himself. The disciplinary panel handed down a 3-week suspension. 3 weeks for what some considered one of the worst acts you can commit on a rugby field. People were furious. Comments flooded in calling the decision a joke, a disgrace, pathetic. Even some Springboks supporters started questioning whether the system was protecting him because of his status. And here's where it gets complicated. Was justice served? Was this a player losing control under pressure? Or was this a competitor doing whatever it takes to win, crossing lines that shouldn't be crossed? The answer depends entirely on who you ask. But let's be fair here, rugby is a brutal sport, it's not ballet. These players spend 80 minutes smashing into each other at full speed. Emotions running higher than most people experience in their entire lives. Mistakes happen, tempers flare. The line between aggressive and illegal gets blurred in the heat of battle. And when you're carrying the expectations of an entire nation, when you're the guy who came from nothing and has everything to prove, maybe that line gets even harder to see. Some people have noticed a change in Mapimpi's demeanor over the year. The upbeat, smiling winger from 2019 seems different now. More intense, more on edge. There's a tension that wasn't there before, like he's constantly fighting battles nobody else can see. Is that the weight of being a symbol? Is that what happens when you lose everyone you love and pour all that pain into proving you belong? Or is it something else? The truth is probably more complicated than any of us want to admit. What we do know is that Mapimpi continues to show up, continues to perform, and continues to divide opinion everywhere he goes. And maybe that's exactly what makes him so fascinating. Recently, Mapimpi received a 5-game suspension for a red card against Ulster. Standard stuff, right? Except here's the twist. 4 of those 5 games counted as Springbok international matches even though he wasn't selected for the squad. He was only on the standby list. Critics called the decision absurd, pointing out the strangeness of serving a ban for matches you weren't even picked to play. It raised questions about how suspensions are structured, and whether the system makes sense. But it also highlighted something else. Even when he's not on the field, Mapimpi creates conversation. Even when he's sitting at home, people are debating his place in South African rugby. There have been moments when analysts suggested the Springboks couldn't afford to take 4 wingers to major tournaments, implying that at 33 years old, Mapimpi might be past his prime. National outcry followed. How dare anyone suggest dropping a double World Cup win? But others argued that form should matter more than past achievements, that younger players were showing better performances week after week. This is the impossible situation Mapimpi finds himself in. Too accomplished to ignore, too controversial to fully embrace. A player whose legacy is still being written in real time, with every match adding another chapter to a story nobody can agree on. So where does that leave us? Here's what we know for certain. Mapimpi came from nothing, absolute zero. He lost everyone he loved, and still found a way to reach the top of world rugby. He scored the first Springbok try in a World Cup final, ending a drought that lasted decades. He's a back-to-back world champion with a try-scoring record that rivals the greatest players in South African history. He's also been banned twice for serious on-field incidents, received criticism for his discipline, and splits opinion like almost no other player in the modern game. Some see a hero who overcame impossible odds. Others see a talented player whose actions have tarnished his legacy. Both sides have valid points. Both sides have evidence to support their view. And that's exactly why Mapimpi's story matters. Because real life isn't black and white. Real people aren't heroes or villains. They're complicated, flawed, and human. Mapimpi's journey forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. How much should we forgive based on past achievements? Where's the line between competitive aggression and unacceptable behavior? Can someone be both an inspiration and a cautionary tale? These aren't easy questions, and they don't have easy answers, but they're worth asking. Because at the end of the day, Mapimpi represents something bigger than rugby. He's a mirror reflecting how we judge success, failure, and everything in between. So what's your take? Drop it in the comments. Is Mapimpi still your Springbok, or has the controversy changed how you see him? Either way, one thing's certain. The name Makazole Mapimpi isn't going anywhere, and neither is the debate surrounding him.